Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today and have the opportunity to present to you the Metapsy.org initiative, which aims at improving access to meta-analytic evidence on psychotherapies for mental health problems. I'll start with the example of depression. Depression affects hundreds of millions of people worldwide. So it's a common and debilitating mental health problem. As you can imagine, it has attracted the attention of many researchers, and there's hundreds of randomized controlled trials have been conducted on the effects of treatment for depression. One of the most well-studied treatment for depression is psychotherapy. And when we're talking about psychotherapy, we mean several different things. So several different types of psychotherapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy or psychodynamic or problem-solving therapy and behavior activation and so on. We're talking also about different treatment formats, for example, group psychotherapy or individual psychotherapy or digital interventions and so on and so forth. So apart from that, all these trials have been conducted on different populations, so different target groups, let's say women with postpartum depression or people with comorbid depression and other mental health problems or physical problems like HIV, for example, or cancer. So if we take into account all these differences among the trials that have been conducted so far, and also the fact that many of these trials have inconclusive evidence or contradicting evidence, then we understand why meta-analytic efforts are important, why it is important to synthesize all these results and make sense out of these results. In this context, we have developed a meta-analytic database on all psychotherapies for depression. To develop this database, we have searched in the bibliographic databases of PubMed, Embase, PsycInfo, the Cochrane Library. So we've done this work a long time ago, and we tried to identify any RCT, any randomized controlled trial on psychotherapy compared to any other condition. And when I'm saying any other condition, I mean another psychotherapy, another format or version of the same therapy, or pharmacotherapy, or a control condition such as waiting list or care as usual or any other type of control condition. In these searches, we also included combined treatment, which is combined psychotherapy with antidepressants. And also we focused on studies including individuals with either depressive symptoms or who met a diagnosis of depression. Of course, we had exclusion criteria, and among our exclusion criteria were maintenance and relapse prevention studies including only a part of participants with depression. So those studies that were conducted, for example, on anxiety or depression were excluded. We really focused on studies that included participants with depression. And that's why we needed studies to include a specific eligibility criterion for depression. And if they didn't include such criterion, they were excluded. We also exclude psychotherapies that did not target depression. So for example, CBT for insomnia, and step care and collaborative care studies, which include often multiple components, and it's very hard to tell whether the psychotherapy caused the effect or the different components that are usually included in collaborative care studies. So as I told you, we've done this a long time ago, but we've tried to maintain it through annual searches. So every year, we conduct another search to identify new studies on psychotherapy for depression. Throughout these searches, we have screened more than 21,000 titles and abstracts, and of which we have screened in full text 3,586 papers. And this process is done by 2 reviewers independently every time. And whenever we do not agree on the inclusion, we reach agreement through discussion. Currently, the database includes 824 papers, and this is based on the update of 2021. The latest update is still ongoing. We're still searching for the right papers to include. However, based on the previous update, we have 824 studies, and of these studies, 763 are RCTs with adults, and 61 are RCTs with children and adolescents. I will focus a little bit on the database we have on adults. And we have managed to categorize several comparisons, including psychotherapy versus pharmacotherapy, combined treatment versus pharmacotherapy alone, combined treatment versus psychotherapy alone, combined treatment versus placebo, psychotherapy versus controls, which is our biggest selection of studies, including 390 studies. Also psychotherapy versus psychotherapy, studies on inpatients, unguided interventions, studies on different treatment formats, cognitive bias modification studies, and other comparisons. So after we identify the studies we want to include in the database, we always extract the data from these studies. And this process is also done by 2 reviewers independently. So we have extracted data related to effect sizes calculation, so mean, standard deviations, numbers of participants per group, but also information related to treatment, such as number of sessions, treatment duration, the type of treatment, also the type of control condition, the duration of the assessment, the target group, data that are needed for the risk of bias assessment, but also some sociodemographic information, such as a proportion of females in the sample, etc. As you can imagine, this is a massive endeavor. So at some point, we thought that there is no need for other research groups to do the same thing. So we thought it would be more helpful if we uploaded everything online and make everything accessible to other research groups or anyone else who wants to have access to this data. And so we did. So we have created a publicly available online repository of our trials. We first started with 1 group of trials, the one on psychotherapy against control conditions, which is the biggest selection of studies that we have, as I told you before. So we uploaded all our data online, and the most exciting part is that if you visit our website, which you can access using the URL metasci.org, if you visit our website, then you can simply run a meta-analysis by following some simple steps. So if you run this meta-analysis, then you will realize that you have access to all the data we have extracted. And by following some simple steps, you can perform, let's say, meta-analysis in a subset of these studies. Let's assume that you want a particular year or a particular target group. You can simply select this year, select this target group, and run the analysis, which is very fascinating, as you can find all the results you need. So you can find a summary of the main effects, or you can generate plots like forest plot. which is a nice representation of the results of the meta-analysis. You can run analysis of publication bias or risk of bias assessment only by following some simple steps. And let's say that you want to do a more complicated meta-analysis. Let's assume that you want to do a network meta-analysis, for example. You can simply download all the data we have extracted and run this meta-analysis. And we have uploaded everything you might need in order to do something like that. We have uploaded the protocol of our database. We have uploaded instructions on how to conduct a meta-analysis, instructions on how to conduct a meta-analysis now, several tutorials. So everything you might need is there. And you can simply run a meta-analysis using the data we have been collecting. Of course, you might be interested in all the details about the implementation of this database and how you can run meta-analysis, what exactly we have done for you to run this meta-analysis. You can ask all these questions to Matthias Harrer, who is here today, and I'm sure that he will be more than happy to answer your questions. From my side, I would like to talk to you a little bit about our plans for the future. So I told you that we have uploaded only the data from the comparison of psychotherapy versus control conditions, but our biggest dream is to include many more data sets and to have many more data sets publicly available. So we have been working on several other data sets, but also we have been collaborating with groups who have done exactly the same systematic effort in other mental disorders. So in the near future, we would like also to include the data sets on anxiety, PTSD, insomnia, suicide prevention, obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorders, psychosis, borderline personality disorder, and grief. So stay tuned, more will come in the future. Also, our group has been collecting individual patient data from the trials and depression. So this individual patient data concern the primary data sets of the trials. And we have conducted several meta-analyses based on this data. And other possibilities are that we upload also the results of this individual patient data meta-analysis using the Shiny app. So we really hope that this database will be helpful for clinicians, other researchers, or patients, or other stakeholders who want to get a better understanding of the effects of psychotherapies for mental health problems. Of course, there is a whole team behind this effort, and this team is growing because the databases are growing. And we really hope that we will achieve our dream and we will upload the data from all the other databases in the near future. Thank you very much for your attention.